On January 4, 2012, an image was posted on 4chan's infamous /b/board, sparking one of the internet's most intricate mysteries. An anonymous user, hiding behind the pseudonym 3301, challenged anyone brave enough to decipher a hidden message within the image. Little did they know, they just ignited one of the most elaborate scavenger hunts the internet has ever seen. Within minutes, someone discovered that by opening the image in a text editor, an appended string of readable text appeared, revealing a cipher. Decoding the cipher led to another image. What seemed like a dead end quickly turned into something much more. Using a tool called Outguess, users extracted hidden data from the first image, which led them to a subreddit with further instructions. There, they found clues that directed them to a book. This book, combined with a special code, uncovered a phone number. When called, a recorded message played. By the next day, the image had spread across the internet, attracting a growing community of amateur detectives eager to uncover the truth. But what were they really chasing? Who was behind it? And what awaited those who reached the end? Some dismissed it as an elaborate prank, while others saw the puzzle's complexity as proof that it was the work of something much larger, perhaps a secret society or intelligence agency seeking individuals with exceptional skills in cryptography and steganography. After all, this wasn't just a troll. The recording mentioned two missing numbers that, when multiplied with the image's dimensions and combined with 3301, formed a URL. That URL led to a countdown on a website, alongside an image of a cicada. When the countdown hit 0, the page updated with coordinates scattered across 5 countries. Participants had to venture into the real world, searching out these locations themselves. For those who suspected Cicada was backed by an organization, this felt like validation. It seemed impossible for a mere troll to orchestrate such an international scavenger hunt. At each location, participants found posters adorned with the cicada symbol and a QR code. One by one, the codes revealed riddles, which led to books, and eventually to another website. Here, the puzzle took a surprising turn. Only a select few who reached the website first were accepted into a final, secret stage of the puzzle. The rest received a message that read, "We want the best, not the followers." The chosen few were warned not to collaborate or share any details of this last stage. Some heeded this warning, while others didn't. But those who did supposedly advanced through to the end. After nearly a month of silence, a final message on the subreddit declared the puzzle over. Cicada, it seemed, had found the highly intelligent individuals they were looking for. Whatever happened to these people remains a mystery, but many felt the hunt was nothing more than a wild goose chase meant to waste everyone's time. After all, the same burning questions remained unanswered. What was the puzzle for? Who was behind it? And what did you find at the end? Yet, this wasn't the end. Each clue in the puzzle contained an authentication code, or PGP signature, ensuring participants that it was truly from Cicada, not an imposter. When, exactly a year and a day after the first image, another image matching the PGP signature appeared, the internet buzzed with excitement. Cicada was back. The second puzzle began similarly, an image with a hidden message, leading to a book, and so on. This time, a recording titled "The Instar Emergence" appeared, and clues pointed to a cryptic Twitter account. As the second puzzle progressed, a runic alphabet made an appearance, yet its purpose remained obscure. Like before, coordinates led participants to physical locations in multiple countries, but once again, the path eventually went dark, and Cicada vanished. Then, in 2014, round 3 commenced. This time, the puzzle centered around an enigmatic book titled Liber Primus, meaning first book in Latin, written primarily in runes. The runic alphabet finally made sense, but the translated pages contained cryptic philosophical and ideological musings, like a manifesto. Some likened it to the writings of a cult. The book held more clues and codes, leading participants to the deep web and various recordings. However, many pages remain untranslated to this day, shrouded in layers of encryption. Cicada's silence in 2015 led many to believe that completing Liber Primus was necessary for them to return. In 2016, Cicada encouraged a re-examination of the book, but since then, only silence. When the first image appeared in 2012, people assumed Cicada 3301 was an alternate reality game, ARG, by a corporation to promote something new. Microsoft, after all, had created an elaborate ARG in 2001 to promote artificial intelligence, and a similar viral marketing campaign was used for Halo 2. But the absence of commercialization ruled out this theory. Leaked information from the private end stage shed some light on Cicada's nature. Finalists of the first puzzle allegedly received an email describing Cicada as an international group valuing privacy as a fundamental right. Their aim was to recruit like-minded people to help develop privacy-conscious technologies. The email ended with 3 questions about the values of privacy and freedom, yet no PGP signature was provided to confirm its authenticity. It seems odd, though, that a group supposedly advocating for free information would insist on secrecy. Still, the idea of recruiting through cryptographic puzzles isn't entirely far-fetched. Corporations and government agencies have used similar methods for recruitment, dating back to World War II. For example, in 2013, the British intelligence agency GCHQ launched a recruitment program involving cryptographic puzzles, and both Google and the US Navy have held similar initiatives. But where are the Cicada recruits now? Have we heard from them? Well, a few alleged winners have shared their experiences. In a 2015 Rolling Stone interview, 2 winners from the first puzzle recounted how they were taken to a dark web forum where they communicated with Cicada members and other recruits. They were tasked with developing privacy-focused software. However, without the thrill of the puzzle, most recruits lost interest and left, until only one remained. One winner, Marcus Warner, later shared his story with YouTuber Nox Populi, who also claims to have won the second puzzle. Nox explained that after completing the puzzle, he was invited to join Cicada, yet was told to be patient. Around May 2013, communication with Cicada abruptly stopped. Other winners had similar experiences. In the end, no one knows for certain who, or what, Cicada truly is. Nox Populi speculates they might be a remnant of the late 80s cypherpunk movement, a group of activists dedicated to privacy and cryptography. But that's just a theory. For those interested, Nox Populi has produced videos diving deeper into the puzzles, presenting a plausible case for Cicada as a group of anonymous developers recruiting talent to develop privacy-minded software. It may not be as thrilling as the conspiracies of a shadowy organization bent on world domination, but it's certainly more realistic. While it might seem that Cicada's scope required a vast network, nothing would have technically needed more than a few dedicated individuals. Someone with disposable income and a knack for cryptography could, in theory, create a mystery like Cicada 3301, even hiring people globally to place posters in strategic locations. Interestingly, most posters were found near airports, hinting that a few people might have actually traveled to set up these clues. In April 2017, Cicada made one final public statement, warning against disinformation. Since then, the mystery remains, along with the original questions. What was the purpose? Who was behind it? And, above all, will Cicada 3301 ever return? In late August 2014, a quiet sense of unease crept through Hollywood as one of the largest privacy breaches in history unfolded, one shocking image at a time. An anonymous user on 4chan had begun sharing hundreds of stolen, private photographs of celebrities, sparking a scandal that would become infamously known as the Fappening. Initially, rumors spread that the images were a twisted hoax, a bizarre internet prank. But as the photos surfaced, their authenticity was undeniable. High-profile figures suddenly found their most private moments exposed to an eager and unsparing public. The victims, predominantly female celebrities such as Jennifer Lawrence, Kate Upton, Kim Kardashian, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, were blindsided. Their personal, often explicit, images had been taken from their iCloud accounts, and now their private lives lay bare for all to see. Apple swiftly addressed the breach, launching an investigation into its system security. The company surprisingly announced that iCloud itself hadn't been compromised. Instead, the hackers had gained access to the accounts using targeted phishing schemes, sending deceptive emails that tricked victims into revealing their login details. This was no random attack, it was calculated and deeply personal. The attackers had carefully studied their targets, exploiting trust to get what they wanted. As the images flooded the internet, first on 4chan and later on Reddit and social media platforms, attempts to contain the leak proved futile. Each day brought new photos and fresh humiliation for the victims. Jennifer Lawrence would later describe the violation as a sex crime, calling it an invasion so profound it was beyond words. Though the images were eventually taken down from some platforms, the damage was irreparable, leaving scars in the victims' lives and on the internet's vast archive. The FBI launched an investigation to track down those responsible. Initially, the hackers appeared to be untraceable, hiding in the internet's shadows. But as the investigation progressed, the net began to close. Ryan Collins, a 36-year-old from Pennsylvania, was among the first to be caught and convicted. Collins had used phishing tactics to obtain the victims' login information, then exploited their iCloud backups to download personal files. He later pleaded guilty and received an 18-month prison sentence, though he was far from the only individual involved. Others, like Edward Madrixic and George Garofano, were also found to be part of similar phishing schemes, and they, too, faced criminal charges. Yet, several other participants remained anonymous, slipping away like phantoms into the dark web. The breach resonated far beyond Hollywood. It served as a grim reminder that the technology millions trust with their secrets could, with just one misstep, betray them. Apple, now under scrutiny, was compelled to tighten security, urging users to adopt two-factor authentication and stronger passwords. But for many, the damage had already been done. The incident exposed a terrifying vulnerability in cloud services, leaving people across the world to question the safety of their own digital lives. In the end, the 2014 celebrity photo leak was more than a scandal. It was a modern ghost story, a chilling reminder that, in the digital age, the line between private and public can be perilously thin, and that behind the screens we rely on, dangers are often only a click away. On September evening in 2014, a convoy of buses carrying young, spirited students wound through the roads of Iguala, Mexico. These students, nearly 100 in total, were from the Ayotzinapa Rural Teachers College, a place renowned for its activism and commitment to social justice. They were en route to a protest, one that commemorated another bloody moment in Mexico's history, the 1968 Tlatelolco massacre. But as they passed through Iguala, they would find themselves caught in an unexpected and harrowing twist. Out of nowhere, the flashing lights of police cars pierced the darkness. The buses were halted, and local police officers approached, guns drawn. Shots rang out, the deafening sounds echoing through the night as the students scrambled to make sense of the chaos. 6 people were killed on the spot, while dozens more were injured. And then, in the confusion and terror, 43 students were detained by the police and taken away. That would be the last time anyone would see them. Rumors quickly circulated that the students had been handed over to a local drug cartel, Guerreros Unidos. Allegations surfaced that the cartel had been tipped off by Iguala's own mayor and his wife, fearing the students might disrupt an event they were hosting that night. It was said that these young men were delivered into the cartel's hands, possibly taken to a nearby landfill or into the dense, dark forests surrounding Iguala. Whispers claimed they were executed, their bodies hidden away forever. As families waited in anguish, the police insisted they knew nothing about the students' fate. The Mexican government launched an investigation, but early on, strange details began to emerge. Investigators found traces of cover-ups, missing documents, and even false evidence. The police and military, meant to be protectors, seemed to be obstructing the investigation rather than aiding it. Suspicion fell on everyone, from the local police officers who arrested the students to high-ranking officials who might have known about their fate. Nearly 80 people were arrested, including Iguala's mayor, his wife, and the local police chief. Yet, with no bodies and only fragments of information, the truth remained agonizingly out of reach. In the years that followed, the Ayotzinapa disappearance turned into an emblem of Mexico's deepest and darkest struggle, the unchecked power of cartels and corruption entwined with the authorities. For the families of the missing, each passing day without answers became a fresh wound. As more witnesses spoke out, the shadows around the case grew thicker, revealing the scale of violence and secrecy that had buried the truth. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to those 43 students. Their fate remains an open wound in the nation, a terrifying mystery that keeps Mexico in a perpetual state of grief and suspicion. The roads they traveled that night may have forgotten them, but the people of Mexico have not. In towns and cities across the country, they are remembered, not as victims, but as symbols of a truth that may one day rise from the shadows, demanding to be known. On the quiet banks of the Taunton River in Massachusetts, an ancient, weathered boulder known as Dighton Rock rests, shrouded in mystery and legend. For centuries, its smooth, gray surface has been etched with a collection of strange carvings, symbols, shapes, and figures, daring anyone to uncover their secrets. First noticed by English colonist Reverend John Danforth in 1680, the markings have since baffled historians, archaeologists, and treasure hunters alike. Each set of eyes brought a new theory, but none could unravel the truth hiding in the stone. Dighton Rock isn't just any rock. Weighing an imposing 40 tons, it looms over the riverbank, standing about 5 feet high and nearly 10 feet wide. Ancient lines crisscross its face, forming human-like figures, geometric patterns, and cryptic symbols that seem to tell a story, if only someone could decipher it. Over the centuries, theories blossomed around it, each more tantalizing than the last. Some believed the carvings were left by the Wampanoag or another local indigenous tribe, their symbols marking territory or passing on legends. The forms bear a resemblance to other Native American petroglyphs, lending weight to this idea, but others saw something more mysterious, a hint of faraway shores and ancient voyagers. In the 19th century, whispers grew that the rock bore signs of Norse explorers. Could the carvings be a map, left by Vikings who had ventured into this unknown land long before Columbus? Danish historian Carl Christian Raffn argued as much, claiming the markings might be proof of Viking exploration on American soil. Yet, the theory lacked the solid evidence it needed to withstand scrutiny, fading like the faint grooves on the stone itself. The most alluring theory, however, came in 1912, when Edmund B. Delabarre proposed a striking idea. The rock's carvings were not Viking, nor indigenous, but Portuguese. According to Delabarre, the inscriptions were left by none other than the Portuguese navigator Miguel Cortereal, who vanished in 1501 while searching for his lost brother. Delabarre believed he could trace certain Latin letters and phrases on the rock, a secret message declaring Cortereal's presence on these distant shores. The idea fired imaginations but left skeptics unconvinced, as no concrete proof ever surfaced that if these tales weren't mysterious enough. A few daring theorists even suggested the rock-held carvings made by the ancient Phoenicians or Chinese sailors were proof of a pre-Columbian world linked by trade and exploration. These theories were tantalizing, but they remained speculative at best, drifting at the fringes of historical debate, fearing that Dighton Rock's secrets might be lost forever beneath the waters of a new dam. Massachusetts state officials made a bold move in 1963. They relocated the rock to a museum within Dighton Rock State Park, where visitors could continue to puzzle over its meaning in safety. Today, it remains there, a silent guardian of its ancient mystery, inviting curious minds to peer closer, to read between its cryptic lines, and to wonder about the people, or perhaps civilizations, who left their mark on this stone so long ago. And so, Dighton Rock keeps its secrets, a mystery trapped in stone, defying the ages and the scholars who come seeking answers. It stands as a testament to the unknown, an enduring reminder that history often hides more than it reveals, and that sometimes, the most intriguing stories are carved into silence. In the heart of Suffolk, England, lies Woolpit, a village whose name, Wolf Pytt, means wolf pit in Old English. Though quiet and unassuming, Woolpit in the 12th century became the unlikely setting for one of England's most peculiar mysteries. The Green Children of Woolpit. According to the tale, 2 children were discovered by villagers around the year 1150. It was harvest time, and the villagers were reaping fields near the ancient wolf pits when they made an unusual discovery. 2 children, a brother and sister, seemingly emerged from one of the wolf pits. Stranger still, the children's skin bore a distinct greenish tint, their clothing was unlike any fabric the villagers had seen, and they spoke in a language no one could understand. Curious and sympathetic, the villagers took the children to the home of Sir Richard de Conn, a local landowner. He offered them shelter and food, but there was an unexpected obstacle. The children rejected everything given to them and grew more distressed with each passing day. Days went by, and despite the villagers' best efforts, the children refused all food, until they discovered raw broad beans growing in a nearby garden. The beans caught their attention immediately, and the children signaled their desire for them. When given the beans uncooked, they devoured them eagerly. For a while, raw beans were the only thing they would eat. Slowly, as they began to adapt to the local diet, the green hue of their skin faded, and they grew healthier. As time passed, the girl began learning English and, with it, a way to tell her story. Unfortunately, her younger brother did not survive, succumbing to illness not long after their arrival. Alone, the girl nonetheless grew strong and became part of the community. With a voice to share her origins, the girl recounted an extraordinary tale. She described a place she called St. Martin's Land, a realm where the sun never fully shone, casting the land in perpetual twilight. She claimed that all the people there shared her green complexion. She also mentioned a luminous land on the other side of a great river, a hint, perhaps, at a world parallel to our own. The girl's story continued. She and her brother had been tending their father's flock when they heard the sound of bells. Entranced, they followed the sound into a cavern, wandering in the darkness until they emerged into the blinding daylight of Woolpit. It was there, disoriented, that the reapers had found them. In her new life, the girl was baptized and given the name Agnes. She remained with Sir Richard de Conn, growing into adulthood. Some accounts suggest she became a servant, while others hint that she married a man from King's Lynn and possibly had children. Her life beyond these sparse details remains shrouded in mystery. Over the centuries, theories about the Green Children of Woolpit have abounded. According to folklore and myth, some believe the tale is rooted in folklore, drawing on medieval themes of mysterious children, shadowy realms, and hidden worlds connected through caves. Extraterrestrial theories say. Others suggest the children might have come from another planet, citing their strange language and green skin as possible evidence of alien origins. The next theory is parallel worlds, the notion of a St. Martin's Land has led some to speculate that the children emerged from a parallel dimension or an underground civilization, and based on historical context, historian Paul Harris offers a more grounded theory, proposing the children might have been Flemish orphans displaced after the Battle of Fornham in 1173. The green hue of their skin could have been due to hypochromic anemia, green sickness, caused by malnutrition. there is also a theory based on psychological and symbolic interpretations. Some interpret the story as a symbolic expression of societal anxieties about the unknown, and the other embody medieval fears and fascinations. The tale of the Green Children has endured, inspiring books, music, and scholarly debates. Two chroniclers of the time preserved the story, according to William of Newburgh, in Historia Rerum Anglicarum, History of English Affairs. He documented the event with curiosity, noting its bizarre nature. And Ralph of Coggeshall, as abbot of a nearby monastery, he provided a detailed account in Chronicon Anglicanum, likely based on local reports or first-hand accounts. Today, Woolpit remains a quiet village, and though centuries have passed, the mystery of the Green Children still lingers. The questions raised by their story: where did they come from? Why was their skin green? And what was St. Martin's Land? Remain unanswered, yet the tale continues to captivate, leaving a legacy that's both haunting and unforgettable. In June 1999, the body of Ricky McCormick was discovered lying in a field near West Alton, Missouri. It wasn't the sight of the body that unsettled investigators, it was what they found hidden in Ricky's pockets: 2 notes scribbled in an indecipherable code. To this day, those encrypted messages remain a mystery, one that not even the FBI's best cryptographers have managed to crack. Ricky McCormick was an unlikely figure to leave behind a coded message. A high school dropout who could barely read or write, he had led a simple and often troubled life, dealing with chronic health issues and a history that included jail time. Yet, these strange notes, a puzzle of letters and numbers, seemed almost to be taunting anyone who might try to make sense of them. What could they mean? Was it a message meant for someone, a secret he took to his grave, or perhaps a hint at something far more sinister? Authorities noted that Ricky was last seen alive on June 25 at a hospital in St. Louis, seeking medical care. How he ended up dead in a rural field, miles from his home, is a mystery in itself. Ricky didn't own a car, and the area was isolated, accessible only by winding back roads and miles of cornfields. No one could explain how he had traveled so far, or WHY.AS investigators tried to piece together the story. They grew increasingly suspicious. The strange notes, with their jumbled letters and numbers, seemed like the only clue that might shed light on Ricky's last days. Specialists in the FBI's cryptanalysis and racketeering records unit worked tirelessly on the cipher, even reaching out to the American Cryptogram Association for help. Yet, no one could break the code. In a rare move, the FBI publicly released the notes in 2011, hoping that someone, anyone, might be able to decipher them. The response from the public was overwhelming, with amateur sleuths and cryptologists offering theories about hidden meanings, secret messages, and elaborate codes. But nothing solid emerged. Ricky's family was as mystified as anyone. They doubted he could have written such a message himself, given his limited education. And yet, a few relatives remembered that, as a child, Ricky had sometimes used coded scribbles. Had he learned a secret language of his own? Or was he hiding something deeper? To this day, the notes remain locked in mystery, and Ricky McCormick's death unsolved. His final moments, whatever secrets they held, seem to have been swallowed by the Missouri cornfields, leaving behind a chilling cipher that refuses to give up its meaning. But that's just one of America's dark and cryptic tales. Hundreds of miles away, nestled in the quiet woods near Bear Brook State Park in Allenstown, New Hampshire, a haunting discovery was made one cold November day in 1985. As a hunter moved through the dense forest, he stumbled upon an unassuming metal barrel, partly hidden beneath the foliage. Curious, he pried it open, only to recoil in horror. Inside were the skeletal remains of a woman and a young girl, their identities unknown, their stories silent. Authorities arrived, puzzled by the chilling scene. Who were these victims, and how had they come to be here, abandoned in the wilderness? The condition of the bodies suggested they had been there for years, possibly since the late 1970s. Despite their best efforts, investigators could find no answers. The case grew cold, left to rest like the forest around it. 15 years later, in 2000, the quiet was shattered once more. Not far from the original site, a second metal barrel was found, hidden beneath the leaves and dirt. Inside this drum were the remains of two more young girls, their bones echoing the tragedy of those found years before. How could they have gone unnoticed, so close to where the first grim discovery had been made? As forensic experts examined the remains, a twisted story began to take shape. DNA tests revealed that the woman in the first drum was related to two of the girls, likely their mother. But the fourth child, found in the second barrel, was a mystery. She shared no blood ties with the others. Who was she? And how had she become entangled in this horrifying tale? For decades, the Bear Brook murders haunted the families of the missing and the investigators chasing shadows. Then, in 2017, a breakthrough came. DNA technology advanced far beyond what was available in the 1980s, pointed to a name, terrify, a drifter with a dark past and many aliases. Rasmussen was already known as a convicted killer, but his trail of violence ran deeper than anyone had suspected. Using genetic genealogy, investigators linked him directly to the Bear Brook murders that in 2019, after 34 years of uncertainty, 3 of the victims were identified. The woman was Marlies Honeychurch, and the 2 related girls were her daughters, Marie and Sarah. Their lives had been cut short, hidden in the woods for reasons they would never be able to share. But the fourth girl, the unrelated child, remains a mystery. To this day, her identity is unknown. Her life story is lost somewhere in the dark history of Rasmussen's past. Along the misty stretch of Highway 16 in northern British Columbia, a chilling legend persists, one that has haunted the towns and villages scattered along its path. Known ominously as the Highway of Tears, this route, winding through vast, lonely forests between Prince George and Prince Rupert, has become infamous for a dark mystery. Dozens of young women, mostly indigenous, who have vanished without a trace or been found murdered. Between 1969 and 2006 alone, at least 18 women disappeared or met violent ends along this desolate highway. Their stories are heartbreaking, and the shadows they've left stretch like ghosts along the roadway, a silent reminder of justice still unmet. That in 1978, Monica Jack, just 12 years old, became the youngest to vanish along the highway, a haunting reminder of the innocence lost to this grim legacy. For years, families cried out for answers, but silence reigned. It wasn't until 2006 that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, launched Project EPANA, determined to find patterns that could link these cases. The question loomed: was there a single monster preying on these women, or a more complex web of multiple killers? Then, a chilling breakthrough emerged in 2012. DNA evidence tied American serial killer Bobby Jack Fowler to one of the cases, the 1974 murder of 16-year-old Colleen McMillan. Fowler, a drifter with a violent past, had already died in 2006 in an Oregon prison. This discovery brought both relief and dread. Fowler was now linked to the deaths of two other young women, Gail Ways and Pamela Darlington, both 19, murdered in 1973. But as soon as he became a suspect, he slipped beyond reach, taking whatever secrets he held to the grave. As RCMP investigators plunged deeper, they faced vast, forbidding terrain, thick woods, remote paths, and winding roads that made for an ideal hunting ground. The struggle for answers seemed insurmountable, complicated further by the historic neglect and systemic issues that had long affected indigenous communities. The haunting reality began to set in: some of these mysteries may never be solved. In the meantime, the indigenous communities along Highway 16, tired of waiting for justice, began fighting to bring awareness to the tragic disappearances and murders. The Highway of Tears became more than just a place. It became a symbol of the countless missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls across Canada. Their voices called out, breaking the silence that had once blanketed the highway. As the Sodders searched the charred remains, a troubling realization dawned: no trace of the children's bodies could be found. Experts told Jenny that bones would have survived the fire's heat, even at its peak intensity, and yet there was nothing. No bones, no ashes, no remains of any kind. Then came the rumors that something darker might be at play. The official report blamed faulty wiring for the blaze. But George and Jenny knew the house's electrical system was in good order. After all, they had seen the Christmas lights glowing during the fire, a detail that baffled them. And then there was the strange discovery that their phone line hadn't been damaged by the flames, it had been cut. It seemed someone had tampered with their line that night, leaving them cut off from any hope of calling for help. As time went on, more unsettling questions surfaced. George's ladder, usually leaning against the house, was missing during the fire, and both his trucks, working just the day before, refused to start when he tried to use them to rescue the children. The coincidences stacked up, each one a piece in a growing puzzle that suggested the fire might not have been accidental after all. Years passed, but the Sodders' search for answers never wavered. They followed up on every rumor, including strange sightings of children matching their missing kids' descriptions, sometimes far from home. One woman claimed to have seen the children at a rest stop in South Carolina, accompanied by two mysterious adults. Each lead left the Sodders with more questions than answers. Then, in 1968, a letter arrived, addressed simply to Jenny. Inside was a photograph of a young man bearing an uncanny resemblance to their son Louis, who would have been in his 20s by then. Scrawled on the back were cryptic words: Louis Sodder. I love brother Frankie. Illo boys. A 90132 or 35. The envelope was postmarked from Kentucky, but there was no return address, leaving the Sodders at another dead end. Desperate, they hired a private investigator to track down the lead, but he vanished, leaving behind no answers, adding another layer to the mystery. For decades, the Sodders kept the case alive, even erecting a billboard along Route 16 with pictures of their missing children and a plea for any information. It became a haunting landmark, a testament to a mystery that refused to rest. Though George and Jenny passed on without finding the answers they sought, the story of their children's disappearance remains, leaving behind whispers of conspiracy, abduction, and a question that lingers to this day: what really happened to the Sodder children on that fateful Christmas Eve? Along the desolate stretch of Long Island's Gilgo Beach, a mystery unfolded over decades, hidden in the marshy shores and winding parkways. In the early 2000s, what seemed like a quiet beach would soon reveal its secrets tied to one of America's most elusive serial killers. This unknown figure, the Long Island serial killer, is believed to have claimed at least 10 lives, and perhaps as many as 17. His victims were mostly young women, many who had worked as sex workers, but one was just a toddler, an innocent with no name, adding a layer of heartbreak to an already chilling case. The mystery began unraveling in December 2010 when police were searching for Shannon Gilbert, a young woman who vanished after a frantic 911 call near the area. As they scoured the sandy stretches and thick brush, they found not Shannon, but something entirely unexpected: the remains of 4 women, buried close together along Ocean Parkway. The remains belonged to Melissa Barthélemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. This cluster of bodies became known as the Gilgo 4, marking the beginning of a dark discovery that would grip the public. As the months passed, the search widened, and with it, so did the mystery. Investigators uncovered more remains, some older, belonging to other missing women, Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack. Then, in a heart-wrenching twist, they discovered the remains of an unidentified toddler near an unidentified woman. Who was she? How did she come to be a part of this ghastly tale? The investigation drew in top detectives and NYPD, who were determined to end the elusive killer spree. In a strange encounter, detectives reportedly spoke to the killer himself on the phone in 2009, tracing the call to Times Square. But even this close call couldn't pin down the shadowy figure. He slipped away, leaving only more questions in his wake, each unanswered question deepening the dread surrounding the case. Then, in a surprising breakthrough in July 2023, authorities announced the arrest of Rex Heuermann, a 59-year-old architect from nearby Massapequa Park. Through DNA evidence, cell phone records, and witness accounts, Heuermann was charged with the murders of 3 of the Gilgo 4, Melissa Barthélemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, and was named the prime suspect in Maureen Brainerd Barnes' case. The quiet architect, a figure seemingly far removed from the horrific crimes, had lived close to the very communities he terrorized. Just as the mystery seemed to reach a crescendo, in June 2024, Heuermann faced new charges for the murders of Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack, bringing the count of suspected victims connected to him to 6. Yet, even as the charges mounted, the true reach of his crimes remains uncertain. Could there be others still buried along the lonely highways and marshes of Long Island? The Red Room is a chilling legend whispered about in the deepest, darkest corners of the internet. Its existence has never been fully confirmed, but rumors have fueled the imagination of many, weaving a terrifying tale about a secret site supposedly hidden within the dark web, known for hosting live streams of unimaginable horrors. In the Red Room, it's said that viewers can pay in cryptocurrency, such as Bitcoin, to direct brutal acts on the victims displayed, acts that cater to the twisted whims of those watching. The actions are said to be as brutal as the viewer demands, turning the Red Room into a twisted realm where cruelty knows no bounds. The eerie allure of the Red Room feels even more disturbing because of real-life cases that seem to reflect its existence. One such case is that of Peter Scully, a man whose crimes redefined human depravity. Operating out of the Philippines, Scully recorded graphic videos of torture and abuse, some involving young children, which he allegedly uploaded to a site called No Limit Fun on the dark web. Some believe this site was a version of the Red Room, a secret platform where Scully's horrific acts could be viewed by a select audience, reinforcing the idea that such spaces may exist, hidden in plain sight. The idea of accessing a true Red Room has an almost mythical quality, yet it's believed to be nearly impossible for the average person. While the Tor browser opens the gates to much of the dark web, live streaming technology on Tor has limitations. This has led some to believe that if Red Rooms do exist, they're shielded by sophisticated technology, accessible only to those with the know-how to reach it and the moral void to stomach it. Protected by layers of encryption, they would be nearly invisible, leaving only traces and rumors for the rest of the world to fear. Adding to the grim credibility of Red Rooms are the disturbing sites that have been discovered. One infamous example is Cruel Onion, a dark website shut down by the FBI that allowed viewers to pay to watch acts of animal cruelty, with the torment tailored to their requests. Horrors like these, filmed and broadcasted in real time, suggest that similar spaces for human suffering could exist, hidden even deeper within the digital underworld. Perhaps even more unsettling are the live-streamed crimes that have surfaced outside the dark web. In Slovenia, 2 men shockingly live-streamed an attack that led to a man's death, all while others watched from the other side of their screens. These real-time crimes, visible to everyday internet users, make the idea of the Red Room feel all the more plausible. If such horrors can surface in the open, what might lurk in the hidden reaches of the web? In the realm of Japanese urban legends, few tales are as chilling as that of the Red Room. It begins with a boy, alone in his room, his face lit by the glow of his computer screen, lost in his endless internet browsing. It was late, and the house was quiet, but suddenly, an odd window popped up on his screen. The background was blank, and in simple black text, it asked, "Do you like the Red Room?" Startled, the boy tried to close it, but the window appeared again. He clicked away, again and again, but the question kept returning, "Do you like the Red Room?" With each attempt to close it, a creeping unease washed over him, but he was unable to escape the question. Then, without warning, his computer screen shifted. The background turned black, and a list of names, written in red, appeared. Slowly, the boy scrolled through them, his anxiety rising with every line. As he reached the end, he saw his own name. The next day, he didn't show up for school. Rumors began to swirl that something terrible had happened. By evening, the whispers grew, and soon everyone heard the grim news. The boy had been found dead in his room, the walls drenched in red. No one knew what he had encountered, but the legend of the Red Room grew. It's said that those who see the cursed question on their screen are marked, doomed to add their name to the list in blood. Under the shroud of fog that often blankets England's M6 motorway, ghostly tales linger as thick as the mist. This stretch of road, winding through ancient lands heavy with history, is known as Britain's most haunted highway. The M6 crosses battlegrounds and burial sites, places where blood was spilled and rites were performed long before the hum of engines filled the air. And here, amidst the rush of headlights and distant murmurs of the past, the ghosts come out to wander. It's usually late at night, when only the lonely headlights break the darkness, that drivers report seeing strange apparitions, a shadowy figure crossing the lanes, oblivious to the cars that narrowly avoid it, as though trapped in another time. Some travelers tell of a mysterious hitchhiker standing by the road, soaked to the bone as though caught in a relentless rain. Drivers pull over, but before they can even reach to open the door, the figure vanishes, leaving only an eerie sense of something unfinished. The most unsettling tale, however, is that of the spectral Roman soldiers. Phantom figures, clad in armor, march in silent formation, their ghostly weapons clinking as if echoing from centuries long gone. Witnesses swear they see these spectral soldiers near the highway, heads bowed, their eyes fixed on some distant, forgotten battlefield. Some believe they're bound to this land, souls of warriors doomed to forever tread the ground they once defended. Each encounter, each whisper, adds to the sense of dread that hangs over the M6, a haunted pathway winding through the shadows of England's ancient past. For those who travel it at night, the question lingers: are these just stories, or are these spirits truly walking among us, bound forever to their ghostly journey through the fog? In the desolate, frozen wilderness of Canada's Northern Territories lies Anjikuni Lake, a place where one of the most haunting mysteries of the Arctic took shape. On a bone-chilling night in November 1930, seasoned trapper Joe LaBelle made his way through the snow to a familiar Inuit village on the lake's edge. Normally, he would be greeted by warm fires and friendly faces, but that night, something was different. As he approached, an eerie silence hung in the air, and he felt a chill that had nothing to do with the bitter cold. LaBelle stepped into the village, but it was as if life had simply paused mid-step. Huts lay deserted, food sat out as though the villagers had just stepped away, and the fires had long since burned down to ashes. No footprints marked the snow, and the air felt thick, almost watching him. The stillness was complete, unnatural, his heart pounding. LaBelle searched deeper, hoping to find a sign of life. Instead, he stumbled upon something even more disturbing. The village graves had been unearthed, their contents gone, as though someone, or something, had taken even the dead. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, no trail leading out of the village. It was as though the villagers, alive and dead, had been lifted straight from the earth and spirited away into the night. News of the disappearance spread quickly, and a search party was dispatched to scour the frozen landscape, but not a trace was found. Every path led to dead ends, and every theory grew colder with time. Some whispered of alien abductions, others of ancient curses from the Arctic's dark past, claiming the villagers as their own. To this day, the people of Anjikuni Lake remain missing, their fate swallowed by the Arctic night, leaving only the whispers of their lives behind. And on certain nights, when the wind howls across the lake, some say you can still feel them there, shadows of a village lost to time, trapped in the endless, icy silence of the Canadian wilderness. On a warm summer day in 1954, Tokyo's Haneda Airport bustled with travelers from every corner of the world. But one man, neatly dressed and carrying an air of quiet confidence, would leave a mystery that has baffled minds for decades. He approached customs, handed over his passport, and waited, unbothered, as officers examined his documents. But what should have been a routine process quickly turned into something far stranger. The man's passport, impeccably stamped and genuine in appearance, stated he was from a country called Taured. Confused, customs officials checked the maps, but no such nation existed. The man grew frustrated as they questioned him, confidently claiming that Taured was a country situated between France and Spain and insisting that it had been established for centuries. His frustration turned to exasperation when he pulled out other items, currency, documents, even a driver's license from Taured, all authentic looking, yet from a country no one had ever heard of. Perplexed and wary, authorities detained him in a hotel room under guard while they investigated further. But when they returned to question him, the room was empty. The guards swore he hadn't left, yet the man was gone, vanished without a trace. His belongings, his passport, and everything he had carried had disappeared along with him. It was as if he had never existed, as if Taured itself had somehow swallowed him back into whatever world he had come from. The story of the man from Taured endures, told as a tale of a traveler who might have slipped across dimensions, a visitor from a world just parallel to our own. Was he merely a hoax, or had he, for a brief moment, crossed over from reality just beyond our reach? His story remains a tantalizing mystery, one that hints at the possibility of worlds unseen, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps, keeping themselves hidden deliberately. High on a remote Brazilian hillside in 1966, two men were found dead under the most chilling of circumstances. The hillside, overlooking the bustling town of Niterói, had become the site of a mystery that would haunt the region for decades. The men lay side by side, dressed in formal suits, faces shielded by strange lead masks that covered their eyes like eerie, metallic blindfolds. The discovery was unsettling enough, but the contents found with them deepened the mystery. In the man's pockets was a handwritten note, cryptic in its instructions: be at the specified location. It read, ingest capsules, and finally, await signal mask. No signs of a struggle marked the scene, no wounds or visible trauma marred their bodies. It was as if they had calmly followed these steps, knowingly embarking on a journey they did not return from. Investigators pieced together what little they could. Local legends began swirling, with witnesses claiming to have seen strange, unearthly lights flickering in the sky on the night of the men's deaths. People speculated wildly: had the men been trying to contact extraterrestrials, or were they involved in a secret experiment known only to a select few? Yet when the toxicology reports came back, they yielded no clues. Whatever capsules the men were supposed to have ingested left no trace. The lead mask case, as it came to be known, remains one of Brazil's most enduring unsolved mysteries. Were these men part of an arcane ritual, or was it a scientific experiment gone wrong? Some believe they followed instructions to connect with a world beyond our own, their lead masks shielding them from sights the human eye was never meant to see. To this day, no one knows for certain, and the hillside remains a silent witness to two men who sought answers in the unknown and were swallowed by it. There are places on Earth where, without warning, the ground simply opens up, swallowing everything in its path. These sudden voids, known as sinkholes, seem to defy nature itself, as if the Earth is reclaiming what lies on its surface. One minute, a road or a building stands firm, and the next, it vanishes, leaving behind a yawning chasm that invites nothing but questions. In 2010, the heart of Guatemala City was shaken when the ground beneath an entire factory collapsed, creating a colossal sinkhole that plunged nearly 100 feet deep. The hole appeared with terrifying speed, as though the earth had hollowed out overnight, leaving a perfect, circular abyss. Locals could only stand on the edges, peering into a darkness that seemed bottomless. The cause? Official reports pointed to eroded bedrock, but whispers of something more sinister began to circulate. Was it a warning, or was there a darker force at play? Then there was the tragedy in Florida, where in the dead of night, a sinkhole opened directly beneath a man's bedroom, pulling him into the ground as he slept. His body never recovered. His family, horrified, was forced to abandon their home, unable to shake the feeling that the earth itself had taken him. Geologists stepped in, citing groundwater erosion, pointing to Florida's limestone bedrock and delicate balance of water systems. But this explanation did little to comfort those left behind, and even less to explain why, in certain places, sinkholes open without such predictable causes. For centuries, sinkholes have appeared in unlikely places, some in regions with no limestone or geological vulnerability. In these cases, science falters, and legends fill the void. Some cultures see these sudden chasms as omens or messages from the earth, while others believe they're reminders of forces we have yet to fully understand, forces lurking beneath us, silent and unseen, waiting for the right moment to surface. And as we stand on the edge, gazing down into the silent darkness, we're left with a single question: how deep does the mystery go? In the remote, picturesque valley of Hessdalen, Norway, a strange phenomenon has cast a lingering sense of wonder and unease over the landscape for nearly a century. Surrounded by steep mountains and bathed in the silence of Norway's wilderness, Hessdalen seems like the last place on Earth one would expect to encounter the unexplainable. Yet, under its dark skies, strange, glowing orbs of light appear, flickering and dancing in ways that defy logic. Locals call them simply Hessdalen lights, and for decades, these luminous orbs have puzzled residents, mystified scientists, and sparked whispers of the supernatural. These mysterious lights appear without warning, transforming the sky into a silent, ghostly display. Sometimes, they glow faintly, like soft embers floating through the night. Other times, they shine with brilliant intensity, red, blue, yellow, and white, illuminating the valley as if they hold secrets meant for only a chosen few. The lights move in ways that seem to mock the rules of nature. They might hover still for a long moment, then suddenly dart across the valley at lightning speed, cutting through the air in sharp, zigzag patterns before vanishing just as quickly as they appeared. Some nights, they split into several smaller orbs, each one spinning and weaving its own path before coming together again and vanishing into the darkness. The phenomenon dates back to the early 20th century, with the first documented sightings recorded in the 1930s. But it wasn't until the 1980s, when the lights became more frequent and intense, that Hessdalen began drawing attention from the scientific community. Researchers, both local and international, arrived with cameras, scientific instruments, and endless theories. They set up observation stations along the valley, hoping to capture evidence of the lights and unlock the mystery behind them. However, the more they observed, the less they seemed to understand. One of the most compelling theories is that the lights are a rare form of natural plasma, possibly created by electromagnetic charges deep within the valley's unique geological landscape. Some scientists believe that Hessdalen's unusual combination of sulfur, zinc, and iron in the soil could create an electric field, sparking these mysterious lights. But others point out that this theory doesn't fully explain the lights' erratic behavior or why they seem to appear only in certain areas at certain times. Then, there are the theories that step beyond science into the realm of the unknown. Some say the lights could be signals, an attempt at communication from extraterrestrial beings who have chosen Hessdalen as a remote meeting ground, a place to make contact in secret. Others whisper of portals or energy fields that open sporadically, allowing brief glimpses into another dimension. These theories may seem outlandish, but in Hessdalen, where the unexplained becomes routine, even the skeptics are left wondering. Over the years, the lights have drawn paranormal enthusiasts, UFO hunters, and curious travelers to Hessdalen, hoping to witness the spectacle for themselves. Some leave with photos and stories, while others find themselves entranced by the lights, feeling as if they've witnessed something beyond comprehension, a brush with the supernatural. Yet, each sighting seems only to deepen the mystery, offering no answers, only more questions. On the vast, seemingly peaceful waters of Lake Michigan, a mystery lurks beneath the waves, a strange, haunting phenomenon that has earned the lake a reputation akin to the infamous Bermuda Triangle. The stories began as far back as the late 1800s. Entire ships would disappear on clear, calm days, with seasoned captains and experienced crews simply vanishing mid-journey. One of the most famous cases is that of the Rouse Simmons, a schooner known as the Christmas Tree Ship, which disappeared in 1912 while carrying a load of holiday trees. The ship was last seen sailing into a storm, its crew waving to onlookers along the shore. But after it was swallowed by the mist, the Rouse Simmons was never seen again. Years later, fishermen began reporting ghostly sightings of a schooner drifting in the fog, only to vanish when approached. But it's not only ships that have disappeared. In 1950, Northwest Airlines Flight 2501, carrying 58 people, vanished over the lake without a trace. The plane was flying through rough weather when it radioed for permission to descend, then all communication ceased. Despite extensive searches, no wreckage was ever recovered, save for small fragments of debris and a few personal items that washed ashore. The fate of Flight 2501 remains one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries, and some claim that on stormy nights, the sound of the lost plane's engines can still be heard over the lake. Explanations for these disappearances vary wildly. Some suggest that Lake Michigan is home to powerful magnetic anomalies that interfere with navigational equipment, pulling vessels off course and into treacherous waters. Others speculate about supernatural forces, an ancient curse cast by spirits who guard the lake and claim anyone who ventures too close to its secrets. Legends tell of Native American tales warning of the lake's hungry waters, a place where the spirits of the drowned linger, calling others to join them. High in the remote, icy reaches of the Himalayas, where only the most daring climbers tread, a strange mystery has captivated those who listen to the mountains. It began with a signal, a faint, relentless SOS message transmitted in Morse code. The signal echoed out from a high-altitude location, pulsing through the cold air like a call for help from the edge of the world. News of the signal spread quickly among local guides and mountaineers. Was it a stranded climber, lost and desperate for rescue? Search teams, equipped with every available tool and braving the perilous slopes, embarked on treacherous journeys to pinpoint the source. Yet each time they thought they were close, the signal seemed to shift, eluding them like a phantom. Every search ended the same way, with nothing but the biting wind and the vast, silent expanse of the mountains. Some began to suspect it was a hoax, a trick played by someone in the depths of the internet or a radio enthusiast testing their range. But as the years passed and the signal continued, unchanged and unwavering, doubts arose. Would a prank endure this long, pulsing tirelessly through storms and snow? Whispers began to circulate among the villagers and climbers who frequented the Himalayas. Some claimed the signal was a remnant of an expedition gone wrong, the final message of a long-lost climber trapped in the snow. Others, the more superstitious, believed it was something far older, an echo from the past, or even a warning from the spirits said to guard the sacred peaks. In the quiet moments before dawn, they say, the signal sounds almost mournful, a cry that has haunted the mountains for longer than anyone knows. To this day, the SOS continues, a mysterious plea from a place few can reach, leaving those who hear it to wonder, is it a call from the living, a voice from the past, or a message from something even more mysterious, hidden deep within the Himalayas' frozen heights? Imagine answering your phone on a quiet evening, expecting nothing out of the ordinary, only to hear something strange. Across the world, people have been receiving these eerie calls that seem to come from nowhere. When they glance at the screen, they see a long string of digits, often random or entirely blank, a number that shouldn't exist. They answer, perhaps out of curiosity, or perhaps out of a feeling they can't explain. On the other end, there's silence at first, thick and unsettling, as though someone, or something, is listening. Then, faintly, a sound comes through, but it's not quite clear. Sometimes, it's a static-laced voice, fractured and disjointed, whispering words that don't quite make sense. Other times, it's a low, rhythmic hum or a series of beeps that almost sounds like Morse code, but too garbled to decode. And in rare, chilling instances, a voice emerges, speaking in broken sentences, as if calling from a faraway place where words struggle to reach. Naturally, the first instinct is to call back. But when they dial the number, they're met with the same response: this number does not exist. Attempts to trace the calls lead to dead ends, as if the number vanishes the moment the call ends, leaving no record, no trace, just the lingering feeling of something unresolved. Telecommunications experts offer explanations: network glitches, crossed wires, or random number generators. But these explanations fall flat, especially when so many of these calls shared the same eerie traits. For those who believe in the supernatural, the calls are messages from beyond, a voice from a parallel reality, a glitch between dimensions, or perhaps a warning. Others think of the voices as echoes, perhaps fragments of people who have disappeared or souls trying to reach the living world, and so, these calls continue, connecting people to something inexplicable, a doorway through the ether that opens only briefly, leaving behind a question that haunts long after the line goes silent. What if these voices aren't random? What if they're messages, reaching out to us across an unknown divide, waiting for someone, anyone, to understand?